We're here at the 2024 Goodwood Festival Speed with design director of Bugatti Automobiles, Frank Heyl, which is quite exciting, here with the new Tourbillon, which has been a project that Frank has been working on for a matter of years.
Well, we started 2021, I would say.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, behind the scenes, this has been quite exciting because I think there was a lot of anticipation as, well, what would the future be for Bugatti, and the expectation of something
What
of
a
such.
challenge, no? Like, create the successor to the Chiron. It's quite a big task, no? Like,
Yeah, which there's so much pressure, because you guys have just built hit after hit, from Bolide to Mistral, and how do you top it?
Yeah.
But this car really just fascinated the whole world. It's exciting because it's really only been shown to the world for maybe a month now. Here, kind of most publicly debuted to the general public. Probably exciting for you to even have the world see your masterpiece.
Well, the beauty of this event is it's open sky. So you see reflection of clouds in the paint, you see the sunlight hitting it, lights and shadows, and we've reviewed it indoors many times. Obviously, we've reviewed the design models outdoors as well, but the general public has never seen it outdoors. It's been presented indoors, right? So that's a new look for us once again. And we've now been doing these high-speed programs for 20 plus years. Now it's the Veyron, then Veyron Supersport, then Chiron Supersport, and the 300 miles an hour record. Okay, so there's a lot to learn from all this time and all these projects. And the beauty of this project is we could draw it up from the ground. There's not a single carryover part. It's off the white page, and we could really let all of our experience flow into the core architecture of this car. That's why, for example, one of the main things was to work on its proportions. No, so we shrunken down the frontal area. As you know, speed for speed to work out, you need to have CD times A, right? Coefficient drag times A is the surface, the frontal area of the car. And if you optimize the drag, yes, that helps. But ultimately, if you just make the car lower, that has a greater influence on the speed pickup beyond 250 miles an hour.
Well, I love that you guys have challenged yourselves. Specifically, you're a designer, but you're really also playing so many roles as engineer, and the team that you guys collectively assemble is that you're thinking of the same two mentalities as one. So even though this area, which I don't know if a lot of people understand, this section here, and we'll talk about it, it's not only beautiful, but the functionality is just incredible.
It is. So we have an entirely new architecture on the front. You can now see we have the wide horseshoe. That has a origin for all the volumes and lines on the car. We have this kind of fuselage shape that creates the main volume of the car, if you so will, which is inspired by our Type 35. That basically is a horseshoe with a cigar shaped on it. No, it's a fuselage, almost like an aircraft fuselage. So you can see that in here. It draws inspiration from the past, right? But yet again, it's highly innovative, as we have a really small front trunk, or the front latch. No, it's the hood is tiny compared to what we did before. Why did we do that? Is because we have a vertical trunk now. So the trunk loads through all the way to the underfloor. It's even bigger than what we used to have in Chiron in terms of volume. However, it enables us to have a really small hatch. That in turn, again, has a whole causality of lightweight options that come together with it. So if you have a smaller hatch, there's less aero load on the hatch. You can design the hatch itself thinner, more light, and then you can make the hinges slimmer. You can make the striker and the lock smaller. And so it's a whole chain of lightweight construction conceptualization. And that also makes that we can have the whole front clam in one piece. It doesn't have to open, so it doesn't have to stand freely once it's open. So the structural spider underneath can be thinner, and that's another saving weight concept. No? Plus, on top of that, it has aero function. So the horseshoe air intake is the highest pressure air intake we have on the whole car. We push it through two radiators, maximum efficiency, and exit out the bonnet to create additional downforce on the front that we don't have to pay for with drag. So thermodynamically, aerodynamically, it's really a very smart concept, this front end.
Yeah, and there's really no hard edges on the car. I think as a designer, you're always looking for this kind of sensual shape. Even looking at the edges of your kind of floating fenders here, it's just so curvaceous, but done in a very elegant manner. And I don't know how, as a designer, how many renditions you need to go through to achieve the final product. But if you said you're working on this since 2021, I mean, naturally, had it evolved? between the digital design?
I mean, in the design, we're a team of 50 designers spread across exterior design, interior design, color and trim, UX design, you know. And so the CAD modeling team, the experts in surfacing, master of their craft, really. We've done countless iteration loops, milling these things out in full size, looking at them under the sky from far away, and you know, making the proportions work. Because if you start from a blank sheet of paper, yes, we have our DNA elements like the horseshoe grille, the center line, the Bugatti line, the two-tone paint, and we kind of work around it. That's our red string through the new project. However, if you create a new car from the ground up, you've got to get the proportions just right. And what I mean by proportion is the relation and size of one thing to another. So for example, if we start with the size of the wheels in relation to the overall height of the car, if you make the car lower, the wheels naturally look bigger. It's a proportional thing that just makes this aesthetically so pleasing.
Yeah, well, it's neat that you guys have evolved to always incorporate what is the signature line, kind of the growth of the horseshoe grille. Now we have a naturally aspirated motor. We're using air probably more than ever on this new model. I mean, maybe you guys have learned a lot. I mean, your experience over the years with Veyron to Chiron, have you guys learned a lot of?
Oh yeah, well, it's the first time now that I think we're in a watershed moment in the whole hypercar game. This car will go 0 to 60 in 2 seconds. So, and I won't even want to talk about those numbers so much. Okay, which is easy to say if you have those numbers, but nevertheless, it's more about how do you feel as a driver. When you sit in the driver's seat, what do you perceive? How does the car appeal to your emotions? The vibration, the noise, how does the leather smell? How do the machine from solid aluminum switches feel when you operate them? So there's a lot of emotional aspects that go to it, which blends together perfectly with a naturally aspirated engine, right?
Yeah.
So with the V engine, we come from a very wide engine to a very narrow and long engine. And it's still amazing that we managed to fit it into this car, which is nearly the same footprint as a Chiron. No?
Yeah, I always love when people see either a Veyron or Chiron or even maybe the new Tourbillon, is the actual size of the car. I think people always expected to see something larger.
Yeah.
And that was my first impression in 2006 when I saw a Veyron for the first time. I said, it looks like my Audi A4 in kind of proportion. So maybe you guys,
an A4? No.
Years ago, but I felt like I could see some similarity in some kind of this length. You would expect more, but you guys really work so hard to package everything in such a tight manner. And
if you drop a nut, it won't come out at the bottom. I can assure you this.
Yeah. Well, I think it's beautiful to see all the new carbon work, all the design. This car has really set the tone for what is the norm for what an interior might be. So you guys completely just blew it out of the park with this, you know, new milled metals. This, obviously, the name of the car kind of connects with the interior work. I don't know where this idea began, but you guys must have just kept having more and more fun as you guys were just kind of imagining this fantasy.
Well, this year is the year 2024, no? So 1924, there's Mio Costantini, the equipped Bugatti factory works driver from Ettore, and it was the debut race in Lyon in France in 1924 with Mio Costantini at the wheel of his Type 35. This is 100 years ago. So nowadays, we have a Type 35 just there. It's, you know, these cars are being still entered into races and enjoyed, and hopefully never crashed. These cars endure the decades in the collector garages, with the connoisseurs taking care of them through the decades, if not hundreds of years. So that's a key aspect in the design thinking, also behind the interior. How do you make a car timeless? If it has a screen, it immediately dates the car. If you get into a car from 10 years ago, let's say, and you fiddle around with the navigation system, it's a rather unpleasant experience, actually. So we tried to ban screens for as far as we could. And so that's where this analog concept came from. Yeah. And then a lot of customers are really into watches, and so
it's a beautiful thing.
It kind of naturally fell into place to tie that into it.
Yeah, I feel like we really spoke to the watch world, the analog world.
Oh yeah.
The true enthusiast was saying thank you for coming back to this art of, you know, of mechanisms and gears and sapphires, and really also you're saying, you know, beautiful things to the watch world because their work is so artful.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see where the trends might go. You guys have kind of, I would say, owned it. You can confirm or deny, but I'd like to think you guys have really elevated the interior space, which will be really timeless, as we say, the pure eternity, the the timeless kind of mentality. But maybe we can go look at the interior
Sure.
a little bit. I'd love for you to showcase some of the arts.
We have the instrument cluster is machined from a solid block of titanium, actually.
Yep.
There's real ruby stone bearings to the needles. There's covered in sapphire glass, scratched with it. It is in every way like an exquisite watch. No? So, and then you see all the little cogs in there, which was actually propelling the needles. We actually had to adopt little electric stepper motors from the medical industry that are normally used on surgical robots to be able to make those needles react in real time to the torque pickup of an electric drivetrain, which is almost instant. So you can imagine how fast these needles have to move, and to get that right and automotive applied to work in any temperature range, it's really a challenge. And then we have real crystal glass, which is also made from a solid block. You can imagine the amount of machining hours for the machining to be moving slowly enough not to shatter the glass. And then obviously there's a special treatment to make the glass resistant to shattering. In case there's ever an accident, it won't shatter. So, and through that you get the aspect of a skeletonized center console, which has this transparency like a watch with a glass back face. No?
Yeah, so I think people probably, when they first get their tourbillons, might be looking to play with all the little motors and see the gears. So hopefully everyone stays focused on the road, but this detail is quite beautiful. I mean, to use that kind of rich material, obviously this is Bugatti, it has to be the ultimate. This is what we would like to know is the finest car in the world, using rich materials like this. Customization, I've seen some really exciting things that you guys are pushing the boundaries with, like colored glass. Maybe we could do like rose gold on the bezels and gauges, maybe select different colors on the tickers and stuff.
Yes, there will be an entire module within the configurator of the car that's just devoted to the instrument cluster.
Amazing.
And the amount of options, like even I could be playing for days with that thing. What is anodized, black or blue, or is it just a natural look, or is it matte or polished, or is it, all the colors that we can do. We do engine turn? Do we do Côte de Genève, like on the watches?
Yeah.
All the different finishes, the glass, the color of the glass. So there is endless options to actually configure this and make it individually yours.
Well, we're so excited to start speccing cars.
Yes.
We've already gotten a little glimpse behind the scenes of the ideas are just endless. I mean, using fabrics and materials from even what I saw was like a horsehair with kind of integrated.
Le crin, we have that, yeah.
Lovely.
Yes. We have a new kilting as well.
Amazing.
There will be real fabrics as well. So custom woven fabrics with our own patterns. And so the options for our sur-mesure programs are also really picking up with this new model.
Yeah, I think people really will enjoy the process. We saw this happening towards the end of production on Chiron, when you can just kind of play homage to the past or come up with something completely original. And the team, Yasha and team have just done a beautiful job.
Oh yeah, they're fantastic.
Because it's fun. You guys are just a joy to work with. I do want to have a little bit of time in the rear of the car.
Yeah, let's.
Because there's something really exciting I want to share with people. The rear end of this car has really become a hit. Why don't we talk a little bit about the rear end here? And the lights, everything. It's just going to go on and on. I know we don't have hours to talk, Frank, but maybe give us a little inside scoop.
Sometimes people ask, okay, what's the most important thing on a car? And then sometimes I say it's the underfloor. And people are in disbelief, hey, but you're a designer, you're about what the car looks like from the outside. But the underfloor is the key. It's the enabler for us to make the car look like this. What you don't solve on the underfloor, you have to solve on the parts that people see. So I'm obsessed with the underfloor and how it has to look and function. And so we have the beauty of this narrow 90-degree V16, right? And left and right of it, it enabled us to pull up two really extreme long diffuser channels. They start right underneath the seat. And we do not have a metal crash beam in the rear anymore. And usually you have a metal crash beam that is of a certain height over the street. There's a reglement for it. There's a rule, a law for it. And
this area
we don't have that anymore. Now we have these, which is an integrated carbon fiber crash structure that dual purpose serves as an aero device, which is the diffuser. And on top of that, the whole concept for the car, and this is 20 years of doing these high-speed programs experience, is try to get it aerodynamically neutral at top speed. So as you can imagine, if you go 260 something miles an hour, the car naturally wants to take off. So the lifting forces applied to the body of the car are immense, and the amount of downforce that you have to create to cancel out that lift is also immense. So any bit of downforce that you create using a wing at that speed, obviously you pay for with drag. And drag is, we didn't want drag at that speed. So the goal was to keep the wing completely retracted at top speed. And that wasn't easy to do, and that's why the underflow became so important. And that's why we have these super long channels, we have the crash concept, and it's the art of integration. Integration seems like a boring word almost, but if you think about it, integration means you have a couple of functions done by the same part. That is integration. And it blends into the body, and it gives us this beautiful form language as well of the more fragmented, brutal, aerodynamic shapes, and leaves the more sensual, reflection-based sculptural shapes up above. And it's this contrast that makes this so appealing. And you notice we have the exhausts at the trailing edge of the diffuser. Why is that? Is to further energize the suction effect of the diffuser. At top speed, an 8.3 liter naturally aspirated 9,000 RPM engine is basically like a giant air pump. No? The air mass flow out of those exhausts actually speeds up the air that travels underneath the diffuser, and so it increases the suction effect, and only through that we can ultimately afford to keep the wing retracted in top speed mode.
Yeah, I know this was a proud moment for you. I know, maybe manufacturers have tried doing this before, but this is something you personally have, a patent on within design.
Patent pending, yes,
yeah?
But we have applied, yes.
Okay, beautiful. So that's an exciting kind of first for Bugatti and for design in general. We also have some new kind of 3D printing of the rear grille.
Yes, it's something we first introduced in our few of programs, like 2018, the Devo. And the beauty of 3D printing the meshes, especially on the front, where you have different vectors of air attacking the front, you are not locked into a certain molding vector. You're not locked into one direction. You can variate the alignment of each individual blade according to the airflow. So the further you come, let's have a look at the front one more time.
Sure. As we look at the front end of the Tourbillon, we've also seen some incorporation of 3D printing, starting in the grille area here, and maybe Frank, you can tell us a bit more about that.
Yes, this is really also an enabler. It's something that we started doing on the Devo. It's a few of car, we only made 40 of them, and we started to 3D print these meshes. And we've come to realize that obviously the front is streamed at in different angles, in different locations. So the air at higher speeds, it doesn't actually hit the grille horizontally, but the further up you come in the grille, the air will actually hit it at an angle. So if you have these blades and they're perfectly aligned to the airflow, you get the minimum amount of tear-offs, resistance, drag, and a maximum efficiency for the air mass flow through the radiators. Least amount of blockage. So that works in this axis. So the further you come outside on the car, the air will actually attack the car at an angle. And so we did actually align each of the blades directly to the airflow at the location where it is. And so like this we get the minimum amount of drag and the maximum amount of airflow through the radiators.
Well, thank you very much, Frank, for sharing all of your design and engineering. You and your team have just done an incredible job, so hats off to them, and we are excited to see what the future brings.
I'll pass it on to the team. Thanks for coming out, man.
Thank you. Thanks, Frank. Cheers.